Okay, interesting, and we'll get into the thick of that. But perhaps, Hesbon, as you come in, your quick reaction perhaps to the messaging that we've seen, the timeliness of that particular visit to South Nyanza. But equally, we had from the Deputy President right there mentioning those ODM allied members of Parliament who were castigated in one way or the other, that, you know, their names will be inked in the history books for, you know, following development in one way or the other. What say you about such leaders who have been ostracized from ODM due to working closely with the administration, all centered to do with development?
Well, I think as a member of Parliament, you know, Parliament as an institution itself is an arm of government. So naturally, members of Parliament are inclined to work with the national government, to work with the President for purposes of development. And it doesn't have to be development for a particular region, because that is guaranteed and enshrined in the Constitution. Once that division of revenue bill is signed, resources will be allocated to all the counties. But I think you've asked a very critical question on the messaging. If you listen to you know, the speakers in Migori, I was very keen on what was happening in Migori because I'm a native of Migori. You realize that to a large extent, there is a sense in which the messaging is mixed. And you want to ask yourself, you know, the tone that the president used saying that he supported Raila, he fought for Raila, can't Raila just, you know, support him once? Why is Raila, you know, calling for demonstrations, you know, when he is the president? I think that is very, very toned down kind of messaging, but geared to the wrong target audience. You know, the president has access to Raila Odinga. And I think those are things he can tell Raila Odinga. You know, give Raila Odinga the breakdown of everything he was telling the people of Migori. Because when it comes out in a public rally, it actually sounds like what Dismas is saying, that he's trying to use his own personal agony to whip the emotions of people of Migori, to start feeling like, you know, the president is aggrieved by Raila Odinga. And I think that takes away the critical issues that Azimio and the entire Azimio fraternity is raising. And I think it's also wrong from a messaging perspective to interpret, you know, the call for mass action and demonstration to be a Raila agenda, because it is not. I mean, Dismas here will confirm to you that there are certain political key figures in the entire plot. So it is not a Raila thing. So you cannot say that Raila is nationalizing his own personal problems. And they're not Raila's problems. As a matter of fact, if these issues were just a personal problem for an individual politician, I don't think Kenyans would be on the street. But let me go back to the messaging. You know, as a country, there are certain things that are very critical when they come from the mouths of political leaders. And communication, as it were, you know, when made in public, shows that there is a commitment, you know, to it. Anyone who makes certain pronouncements in public is, to a large extent, compelled to commit to those kind of utterances. So if you picture both the president and the deputy president and the other leaders, I think the language that they are speaking is a lot more confusing, a lot more anger-laden. If they needed, you know, to rally the people to believe in what they are doing, they would go to Migori and talk development. I don't know what is so difficult in them just desisting from talking about politics and talk about development. Now, I listened to Mark Nyamita, and I have a lot of respect for Mark Nyamita. A number of ODM MPs, you know, have been accused of going to bed with the government. But I think the ones that have received the most flack are the ones who have responded with some sort of language that is condescending to the political party that took them to parliament. That is not what we saw in Nyamita. Nyamita is so measured in what he said that they will work with the government so long as their conscience is clear. And I think that is the critical issue. When you go to State House, when you work with the government, when you interact with the president, how do you respond to questions that you are asked by your political party? When the president was in Kisii, there were so many ODM members of parliament, you know, and they went there out of respect for the president. They never came out and said, I'm going to represent my people. Because I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, there is no development that originates from State House. It is just lobbying that Dismas is talking about. And that lobbying is politics that is retrogressive. These things are guaranteed in the law. And if the law states that the government is allocating resources in a way that is not serving the public interest, whether you are an UDA MP or an ODM MP, your voice in parliament is supposed to protect the interest of the people. But I'll tell you that to a large extent, there is a sense in which both sides, both the Azimio side and the Kenya Kwanza side, needs to start speaking a language that is development and tone down on politics. And I think the bigger responsibility is on the government side.
Okay. Equally opposition.
There's been a lot of theory. Let's go to practice. The person who occupies State House